Welcome to the Page One Podcast, a podcast featuring a variety of guests and thought leaders on topics ranging from digital marketing, sales channel strategies, influencer marketing, best-in-class product launches, and all the details about how to accelerate sales. Now, here's your host, Luke Peters.
Thanks for joining us on the Page One Podcast. I'm your host, Luke Peters of New Era Appliances and Retail Band Digital Strategy Agency. We're now in a coronavirus world, and I know it's on everyone's mind, so I'm going to adapt the interviews and ensure that you listeners are getting the most out of this podcast. You can expect us to get right to the point and provide valuable business insights and even a few questions around COVID-19. And before we get started, business owners, how are your digital sales performing? Hopefully well in this environment if you're online. And if not, do you wish you had someone there to create a custom strategic plan to help you grow your online sales and show you how to execute it with the team you have? That's what we do at Retail Band. If you want to learn more, find more at retailband.com. In this episode, you're going to hear from Rytis Lauris on how he missed the mark on his first two startups before succeeding on his third business, Omnisend. Omnisend is a powerful marketing automation platform that allows brands to do way more than just send email blasts. You can also hear how he bootstrapped this business and his lessons learned. Hear how your brand can sell direct to consumer in a world where it seems everyone's focused on selling to Amazon and other marketplaces. Rytis is from Lithuania. He graduated with a political science degree and has been in the marketing field for over 10 years. His first two startups missed the mark, but then he learned to use brutal time prioritization and time management, both personal and professional, to help him manage his international company. And he's turning Omnisend into a leading marketing automation platform. He learned to increase his reading speed so that he could dedicate 1 hour a day to reading one book a week. Rytis, thanks for joining us on the Page One Podcast.
Hey, Luke, thanks for inviting. Really great to be here and talk to all the entrepreneurs who are listening to your show.
Cool. And we're connecting right now. You're in Lithuania. So that's cool. All the way across the world.
Yeah, that's correct. I'm really used, although the company is being born in Europe, Lithuania and London, two major locations. But yeah, vast majority of our customers are actually coming from the United States. So I used to spend a lot of time physically there. Unfortunately, due to lockdown and travel restrictions, I stay more at home and like home office. But yeah, definitely it will not last forever. So looking forward to getting back to that part of the ocean.
Great. And for business owners who are not marketing experts, a quick little teaser. So what we're going to talk about is a lot of you folks, a lot of brand owners may not be selling direct to consumer. It's easier to sell on Amazon. It's easier to sell on Wayfair in many cases. They have the audience. But, I truly believe you got to own your customer and you should have a direct to consumer channel. Rytis is an expert in that category and his platform helps business owners do just that. So we're going to talk about that and how you can profitably sell direct to consumer at the same time while you're still growing your sales on these other platforms. And also around that, we'll talk about what are the advantages and reasons you'd want to think that way. And again, a lot of folks, maybe are intimidated if they haven't gone down that route because there's a learning curve and they may not even have the right people on their team. So we'll address all those topics, but we're going to touch on a bunch of other things. And before we get started, Rytis, in simple terms, can you tell everybody kind of what Omnisend does?
Yeah, sure. So as you have already mentioned, so Omnisend is a marketing automation platform built for help online retailers, those who own their brands and have their online stores, so Shopify's, BigCommerce, WooCommerce, Magento's, other world. So basically, we do synchronize data of your online store. We do analyze it. We help you automate your marketing activities and send possibly relevant messages through email as a channel, through text messages, web push notifications, and even synchronize with your Google and Facebook ads to run retargeting campaigns or lookalike audiences campaign. So basically, retention marketing through different channels to communicate with your existing audience.
Great. And so your customers would be people who might be stepping up from a very basic email platform. Is that right? Mm-hmm. Like they're just sending email blasts. Now they want to do something more sophisticated and segment their audience, and then they step into your platform.
Yeah, that's correct. So that's where we create the most of the value. But our super easy to use user interface really allows everyone who just starts selling online, start with Omnisend. So all the way from the very beginner, from the first time you need to start collecting subscribers' data, we have pre-built pop-ups and then all those capabilities to help you grow your subscribers list to really, really robust segmentation, personalization, and then recommendation tools, which are pre-built into Omnisend. Yeah. So from very beginning to beginner to our sweet spot is like somewhere up to like 20 million in GM, D2C, yeah.
Okay, cool. And a lot of folks who are sophisticated will know exactly what Rytis is talking about. And for those that don't, it's just think about your email blast. You're just sending the same message to every one of your customers. And when you have an email marketing automation platform, it's going to have all kinds of things behind the scenes where it can understand and actually create personas and identities of customers and tie it to their email address later on and segment and send unique messages. Maybe they were searching a certain category of your products. They're going to get a message focused on that versus just a standard email, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say what is even more important, not you as a marketer or business owner building personas and predefining by the demographical data, but actually you listening to signals which your customers are sending. And they send so many signals. What are they browsing? What are their like past purchase history? What was the average shopping cart? When did they purchase for the last time? All those things. What were their satisfaction if you do online service and all those things? So just mainly kind of not you building personas, but really listening to your customers and based on the triggers and the signals they're sending to you, automating your marketing.
Okay, cool. And we'll get into that a little bit more later on. So before we do, let's just talk about the business in general. How has it been during coronavirus for you? I'm guessing you guys are doing pretty well. Your services are probably in demand right now.
Yeah, that's correct. So I mean, we were lucky to be in this situation in this industry, serving online stores and serving online businesses. So they have a tendency to grow. And mainly what do we see? We do see that our existing customers, they're growing quite good. It's not that easy for the beginners. It doesn't matter if they're really new to e-commerce or commerce in general, or if they had previously brick and mortar store and they're only now coming to online world. So definitely they face challenges because during the coronavirus situation, at least we see the trend that consumers are more willing to buy from the brands they already know, from online first brands. Yeah, so that's a trend we see. So yeah, for our business, quite good. Of course, we had this challenge of becoming like fully remote organization and reshuffling some practices and all those things. But I mean, it's minor comparing to being an airline or a restaurant. So nothing to complain, absolutely.
And were you guys already remote before this? And how many team members do you have at the company?
Yeah, so we are now 92. We were like semi-remote, but I think like this lockdown and all those restrictions really helped us to accelerate us becoming fully remote organization, which really helps as semi-remote is not what works the best, I would say.
Well, 92, so you have a large organization. Congratulations. How long have you been building Omnisend for?
6 years. Yeah, so we launched a product 6 years ago. And for first 2 years, actually, that was just trial and error. We had a pretty good initial traction, but we didn't manage to monetize customers. So it took us 2 years to understand what value are we actually creating for our customers and for what our customers are willing to pay. Where's the real value which can be monetized and our customers are happily paying. So yeah, so say like 6 years in total, 4 years as a proper business, a couple of initial years really running a lot of experiments to find a product market.
And quickly, what's kind of the breakdown on the team? So 92 in total. I'm sure you've got sales, you got engineers, maybe you have some other departments. How does that kind of roughly break down?
So it's somewhere around like 1/3 is engineering or product team. We have a really substantial and big customer support and the customer operations team. So we really invest a lot in customer experience. So we have 24/7 support. We have customer success managers who are like dedicated people for our larger customers to help them to assist them to really succeed. Yeah, so we have partnerships team, we have sales team. So yeah, I would say 1/3, around 1/3 engineering, 1/3 of serving existing customers, and the rest is basically go-to-market, marketing, and a little bit of small administration.
Okay, great. And what business system do you use to tie everybody together? Is there like a unified system that everything's going into or that you're communicating through, or even accounting? Is it all tied into one system?
Do you mean like technical or like methodology?
I think just, well, overall on our, on a lot of the business owners, they're using an ERP that's maybe, there's...
Okay, I got your point. So we don't have kind of one unified tool to run the business, and we have different tools. So Jira for engineering purposes, HubSpot for partnership and sales and a little bit of marketing, and Slack for communication, G Suite, like incredible tool for documents, sharing emails, all that stuff. So different tools and setup. And we use Hull as kind of internal data platform to unify the data and to share data points across like different tool set and have one tool chain and then share exactly the same data and have visibility across the teams. And talking about methodology, so we use OKRs as management methodology. It really works well for us. So really, I would encourage every organization to look at this and start using it.
OKRs are great. We did them last year. We still kind of do it. We changed a little bit this year to Hoshin planning, which is a little different with the X matrix, and it's pretty cool, but loved OKRs. Do you guys, how do you actually, especially when people are in different areas, what online tool do you use to kind of unify those OKRs? Are you able to do that? Or do you just kind of Excel? Oh, G Suite. Yeah.
Yeah, G Suite. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, Google Sheets. Yeah. It works. And we kind of read a lot and there are tools there, but seems like it works. I mean, it still guarantees all the visibility and it's no learning curve, basically.
Okay, now I'm going to test you here. How many, so you have 92 people. How many of them have OKRs?
Vast majority. So it's kind of like, except like, okay, in engineering, we have like units, we have like smaller teams in engineering, like 5 to 10 people. So they just have one team OKRs, no, not individual ones. We have facilitating roles. That's, let's say, a creative studio, which really creates design, creates visuals for all the marketing departments. So they don't have like really personal OKRs. They have just a studio OKRs, not on a personal level. But the vast majority of people, I would say, so eliminating engineering, so like 60 or something people have their individual ones.
That's great. And just for the audience, if you don't know what OKRs, it stands for Objective Key Result. Okay. And they're a little different than other just typical goal setting tools. They're more aspirational, I would say. You're supposed to set, your objective is supposed to be really hard to meet. And they're also supposed to be bottoms up. So it's supposed to come from the team. Of course, it can come from leadership down, but there's supposed to be a good balance where it's not just 100% leadership. And for anybody listening and you don't have, maybe you don't like the kind of goal setting that you're using, you should check out OKRs. I think it's awesome. And what I like about OKRs, probably Rytis, I can tell you're very like thoughtful and structured, is that like I like OKR because you come up with an objective and then the goal's not enough. You got to list your key results. What does it look like? What does success look like down the road? And it forces everybody to really think about, well, what are my next steps? What do I actually need to do tomorrow to get going on this thing?
Absolutely. And we kind of have three main purposes for OKRs. First one is really to align your organization. It's one setting OKRs, so different departments or different teams have to align there. It's the first thing. Second is really to help ourselves to focus. As you just pick an OKR for that quarter, focus on that, and you don't distract yourself, both on the team and on the personal level. And the third is really to start thinking more about outcomes versus how. So just, if the initiative for the purpose of initiative is not valuable, so will it move a needle? So I have to come up with my objectives, which could really move a needle for the entire organization. So what is the outcome? Actually, what is the potential result in the future if I succeed with that? So we have those three main goals for the OKRs methodology. And it works. At least the initial two, maybe the third is still a challenge.
Yeah. Well, look, a lot of companies, when they start, they'll have goals, but they really don't have that glue that holds them together. So OKRs are excellent at, getting everybody and forces you to check in, forces accountability. Big fan of it. Let's so look, I'm sure you got a really interesting background because you're obviously grew up in Lithuania. Sounds like you've plenty of time living in other areas of Europe and maybe even the UK. A lot of business in Europe, in the US. In this latest business, you bootstrap. So talk about that. Like, what did you learn from bootstrapping Omnisend? Kind of what metrics or rules did you find worked for you?
So I would say probably kind of the key lessons which really helped Omnisend to convert Omnisend in a successful organization was learned during the failed startup attempts, which you have mentioned. It's a third started attempt. In the meantime, I was running more traditional kind of businesses, and Omnisend is a spin-off from digital marketing agencies. So kind of failed with a startup attempt, running something more down to earth, let's call it. less ambitious and just selling hours and services, and then trying an ambitious and a global startup. So the first lesson and the key lesson is really find the monetizable customer pain. And that's probably the key lesson. And if you're creating value for, if you're solving problems larger than you charge for your service, customers are going to pay. That's probably the first lesson. The second lesson is really launch an MVP, and we applied it to the entire business. We launched just very like basic minimum viable product. Yeah, MVP stands for minimum viable product. So launch the basic version, test on the market, and then see if there is a need in the market, improve it and do it fast. So, and we continue doing that with the features we're launching. Customers are requesting for something, we just launch the basic version. If we see that there is attraction, we move it. And it works, because sometimes you come up with the great ideas, but finally you find that nobody needs it. And running like focus groups, researches, etc., it's really complicated and it's not doable for a small business. So I would say probably those are kind of the two. And the third, which really helped us a lot, so having, limited capital really helped us to find creative ways to build a business and to grow business and to run and really focus on our customers' needs. And because we knew if we fulfill their needs, they're going to pay us. And that's how we are funded, by our customers, not investors.
That's great. And the keynotes I took here is, find and monetize a customer pain point. Easier said than done. So obviously you guys are successful there, but I think a lot of times, people think about the product and not the customer. So you're very customer centric and, launch your MVP, your minimum viable product. There's a lot of books. It's obviously, Silicon Valley thinking and more, I guess it's been around for 20, 30 years, but it still is a new concept to a lot of people, you got to just get out there and launch something and get the feedback from your customers. And then you can go back to the drawing board and improve and perfect it. So yeah, super interesting, your feedback on bootstrapping a business. Why don't we transition now into e-commerce? And I know, a lot of business owners, maybe the ROI hasn't been there. Maybe you guys don't have the right team. So let's kind of transition and talk about that. And, like I said in the intro, most brands, they're selling on Amazon because it's easy and they don't maybe have reoccurring business or long lifetime value because it's a one and done type of sale, maybe a 10% reorder rate if they're lucky. So how can, companies change that model? Tell me kind of what you see on the basics of D2C brands that are successful. What are they doing?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So I would say I would compare, selling on any marketplace as selling on a marketplace, like physical one. When you just rent a booth, you have a guaranteed traffic. You don't own this traffic because it belongs to the marketplace. So could it be kind of a long-term business? Maybe, but not that much. And to build your own brand and to launch your own store. So in comparison, to launch a physical store, not rent a booth in a physical marketplace, it's of course requires much more investment, much more time. But if you succeed, the upside is much, because you have a brand, you have loyal customers who are getting back to you, and the margins are much, much better as well. So that's sort of a different concept. And so I would say if you are building something which is really has unique angles and the product is unique itself, you're not just selling what is hot in that specific moment. So launching your own store and starting your own brand is really worth doing that. And then the key difference is who owns the audience. If Amazon does, if eBay does, so you're gonna keep paying and they're gonna keep marginalizing you, eating your margins, launching the same products if they see that there is huge demand for what you're selling, etc. So we're going to just become a host, and you are not owning your audience. And actually, this is, from my point of view, this is the biggest value of the business. So a relationship with the customer. So the tools like Omnisend, loyalty programs, user-generated content, and survey satisfaction surveys, all those things really help to have direct relationship with customer, communicate with them, ask them for feedback, find if they're happy, etc. What is completely different once you're selling on your own D2C store, that in many cases, the first transaction and first conversion is ROI negative. You just lose money on that. And that's why it is so important, because of just, getting customers from Google or Facebook. It's so expensive. So that means that you have to invest a bit more, and the return is a bit delayed. So it's a difference compared. But upside, as I said, it might be better. So basically, and the key difference, selling on Amazon, you don't take care about marketing. Selling D2C, marketing is at the core.
Yeah. And then tell me this. So when brands are doing this, well, first of all, let's talk about this quickly. What is your kind of favorite platform or suggested platform? I mean, Shopify is huge right now, but do you sometimes suggest folks go on a different platform other than Shopify, or what do you think?
Yeah, Shopify is great. Shopify has Shopify Plus, which is for the larger brands. BigCommerce is a really good platform as well for I would say mid-size. If you already have some established brick and mortar or like Amazon kind of business, so you can check BigCommerce as well. Very easy to launch WooCommerce equally as Shopify, I would say. It's on the WordPress platform. Maybe you already have some content, maybe blog, etc. So it's so easy to just plug in WooCommerce on top. Magento is a great platform as well, but I would say for a bit later stages. So I would recommend, one of those, Shopify, BigCommerce, or WooCommerce for the very beginning.
Okay, great. And what if folks don't have the right internal team? So I don't know if you have a lot of experience or you have any thoughts around this. I haven't. I'm sure there's agencies that one can outsource their e-commerce to. I haven't personally worked with any that just literally will run your e-commerce starting from scratch. Do you have any experience there? Or do you think folks need to find that e-commerce manager internally and just hire the right person to get this started?
Yeah, I would be a fan of hiring internal team, as it's a core competence. I mean, if you're selling on Amazon, you already outsource marketing efforts to Amazon in this case. So if you make a decision to launch a D2C business, so marketing is becoming your core competence. So definitely it's worth having it in-house and owning the thing instead of outsourcing. There are some agencies who are doing that on behalf of you, but I know some successful cases, but I would say they are more outliers than like a trend. Yeah. So I would be a big advocate of hiring the right people to have them in-house and really accountable for you.
Yeah. And an interesting thing you said there, if you're selling to Amazon, you're outsourcing your marketing. So think about that, brands. I mean, it's easy money now, but you're not building your brand. And if you're not sure about hiring, look, I got a lot of friends and they're not experts in this area. And I don't know they'd be able to hire quite the right person for that. Use your network. Everybody in business has got other, friends that might actually run e-commerce businesses. Pay them to come in and sit in on an interview or two or look over resumes. Get their help so that you can make the right decision, and probably get their help setting up KPIs, right? Or OKRs in your case, so that, that's the most important thing. This person comes in, now what do they have to do? And kind of transitioning to that, right, is, obviously your platform takes advantage of email, among other things, SMS and a few other things, but is for a company that is either starting out or maybe not successful, that needs to be successful. We're just talking about the D2C side. They could be a big company, but they're not taking advantage of their D2C. And I've seen big, over 100 million plus companies ignoring D2C, by the way. And even if they're getting a lot of traffic, by the way, and they just ignore it because they don't have that competency or that interest, is growing the email list there. Would you call that maybe their number one KPI or item to track, because that's then how they're going to find those repeat orders, or is it something other than that?
Yes, very good point. So growing, I would just define subscribers list, not an email list, which, what does that mean? That, whatever channel your subscriber prefers, either it's email or text messages or Facebook Messenger or web push notifications. So it's all unified. Let's call it subscribers list. So basically, definitely the size of your subscribers list is one of the KPIs. And the conversion rate into subscriber from your visit, I would name as a second very important KPI. Because usually what happens, like on average, 2 to 3% of your traffic, D2C traffic, is actually being converted and ends up as a transaction. So that means that 97% of your traffic, you just lose it, although you paid for it. So what I would recommend to do is really to start converting a piece of this 97% traffic into subscribers. So 3%, let's say, ends up as direct conversion, and never 3%, you end up getting their contact details. That means that they leave you a second chance to convert them a bit later. So, and it increases the chances for success like a lot. And if you do if you give some incentives, if you run pop-up campaigns, a bit more aggressive campaigns, etc. So this conversion rate of subscriber might grow up to like 7%, 9% even. I've seen campaigns like with 12% conversion rate success. So I've never seen 10 or 12% conversion rate like in transaction, but I've seen that good rates in actually getting a second or third chance to convert later. So for starting, I would say this would be key metrics. First, conversion rate, direct conversion rate to really actual transactions. Second, conversion rate into subscriber. And of course, the size of the list.
Okay. And I know the questions I'm going to ask you are going to vary from industry to industry. And even your 3% conversion rate, I got to be honest, even that's very hard to achieve. But it's going to it's just going to depend. Like if a site's got a lot of organic traffic, that might have a super low conversion rate, and a lot of paid, traffic that's, highly focused around the right keyword or customer is going to have a higher conversion. So it depends on your traffic mix and so many things. But what have you seen, or do you think there's a way to say, hey, if you should get of total sales, let's say just make up and say a website's doing 100,000 a month, how much of that should come from your subscribers? Should it be 10%, 25%? I got some friends that do so much. That's why I'm asking this question, and others do less.
I would say like 20 to 30% from your existing customers, and or directly from a retention marketing campaign. Not counting like organic returning customers, but directly from email, SMS, push notification campaigns. 20 to 30%. It's healthy. That shows that you have a healthy subscribers list. And you have, at the same time, you have a good diversity of different channels, acquisition, retention channels.
Yeah, that's a great answer. And again, just for, hopefully a lot of you guys understand exactly what we're talking about. And for those that don't, this would mean, you're running your direct-to-consumer channel, that 20 to 30% are coming from your emails or your, text messages or your messenger messages. So these are probably either past customers or folks that have signed up to one of your lists that haven't yet bought.
Exactly.
I think companies that are not doing that high of a number are kind of like, they're too reliant maybe on paid advertising at that point, right? They got to convert more of it to subscribers.
Yeah, and that means that, you are not, you have not diversed your marketing efforts well. And that means that for each transaction, you pay more, you just invest more. So you lose your margins here.
Okay, cool. Well, listen, hopefully that's helpful to the audience. And we did kind of a deep dive on a few items there, but I want to also kind of run into your time management. I love reading books myself. So I noted in the intro how, your goal is to read a book a week. So a couple questions around that. And I'm sure, for every CEO or professional executive, time management is so important. Why not just in general talk about what you've done to improve your time management?
A lot. So planning helps a lot. So building a routine, I would say. So even in my calendar, I block a time for some routine things like replying emails, reading emails. I block a time in advance for reading a contract instead of just having a to-do list with check boxes. So it really helps to see how does your upcoming day look like. Second thing is really starting to limitate yourself from the distractions. I have no email notifications. I have no messenger notifications, etc. I just read them, then I have a time for that and reply to them. Sometimes there are exceptions. If time to time I go to check my inboxes of all kinds, etc. So that's the second thing which helped me. And I would say the third thing, which is not only about time management, but just really picking priorities and focusing. I'm a strong believer in focus in general. So and basically you have so many things. And again, getting back to the OKRs. First time we were planning OKRs, people came up with so long lists, like 5 objectives, 5 key results by each of them. And it's just not doable physically. Although you're going to spend 120% of your time, it will not happen just because it's not doable. But and it makes you to prioritize in advance what is actually the most important. What will make the biggest impact with the lowest effort? And once you prioritize it, once you pick in advance, you know where to focus. And again, it's easier to manage time as well because you are focusing on less things and that you have less context switch in your brain, which really sucks a lot of time and energy from you if you are making too much of context. Yeah, so probably those 4 things I would say.
So the main thing I got out of there is blocking time on the calendar. That's huge. And I've read a few time management books, and that instead of doing a to-do list, some of the other strategies. I mean, of course, OKR in itself is a time management, but some other authors will talk about MITs, your most important thing, which is totally different than just a random task list or blocking time. Is there any book or person you look up to for time management, or like anywhere that you could direct the listeners to that you really learned a lot about your time management style from?
Good question. I kind of can't recall like now any like specific. Probably that was just topic on which I kind of went into a bit 2 years ago. So maybe there was no kind of one like super book which I could recall now. So yeah, sorry, but nothing to recommend on this topic now.
Yeah, you know what? And I'm the same way. It's like I've read so many different things. Cal Newport's like, he's a pretty interesting author right now, and he's like really minimalizes and just cuts out all of his social media. So I think there's a lot of different people talking about this concept because people are, we're all interrupted so often right now. And definitely turning off notifications. I think a lot of people do that, but we still probably check things too often. So even just responding to email only twice a day and little tactics like that.
It can be, not that radical. Don't start with like a few, like once per hour, not often. And just, close the email tab. It helps a lot because usually what happens, we have it constantly open and we check every like 5 minutes or 3 minutes, and nothing will dramatically change in 1 hour. Yeah, of course, if you are not a support agent, you should be having your inbox always on.
And that's true. Depends on what you're doing. So talk about reading. So you increased your reading speed. How did you do that? You just read up on how to read faster and put your mind to it?
So there was a book, Rapid Reading. It's called Rapid Reading. I'm very bad for names, but yeah, the name of the book was Rapid Reading. And basically it's all about methodology, having a good lighting, having a good angle of the book, and then training things. There are some exercises in the book. So I started then with exercising things. So my goal is really to read one page per minute. So that means that's 60 pages per hour. If it's really professional book, it's sometimes really difficult to keep this pace. Mainly because you just have to like 20 or 30 minutes at this speed, you start getting tired. If it's fiction, it's much easier. And of course, it depends on how do you feel in general, etc. And what's interesting, like lockdown and coronavirus situation, which really you kind of technically waste less time for commuting. You don't meet your friends, etc. And you had like plenty of time to read books. But that was so difficult for me to do that during the lockdown time. As we in Lithuania, we had a complete lockdown for a couple of months. So stayed at home like for 2 months in a row. So yeah, but just because probably of general mental, surrounding, not health, how to call it, just, you just don't feel having enough energy to focus on that. Yeah, but that's, rapid reading. There are some exercises, there are some skills you have to train, and that's great. Yeah. And that's a thing which I really like.
And any books stand out that you think would be, gave you a lot of value, or anything surprising? Just curious, a title or two on some books that the audience might want to look at.
Yeah. So a couple of like recent reads. So not recent, but let's say in past 12 months. So Marketing Warfares. Yeah, probably this is for marketers. It's a great book, classic book. For the first time, it was written 20 years ago, and there is a like revised edition. Like revised just recently, but so like classical tips, but still for every marketer, I would recommend. For every startuper, maybe not e-commerce, but if someone who is listening is thinking about launching a SaaS product, so I would recommend From Impossible to Inevitable by Jason Lemkin and Aaron Ross. Then for every leader, I would recommend Multipliers. So it's about leadership and how you as a leader should empower people instead of telling them what to do. So probably that's kind of different topics: marketing, leadership, and startups in general, which I would recommend. And maybe sales acceleration formula. It's a great book as well.
Okay, sales acceleration formula. The other one was Multipolaris, or multi. Is that how you pronounce that?
Multipliers. multipliers.
Okay, multipliers.
Those who multiply things.
Got it. Oh, multipliers. Sorry.
Yeah,
Okay.
multipliers. Yeah.
Multipliers. Okay, cool. And then from impossible to inevitable for startup and SaaS.
That's
and
right.
marketing warfare for the marketers. Okay, cool. Love having a book list. We'll put that in the show notes. And wow, I mean, we've kind of touched on a lot of subjects today, from marketing to bootstrapping to direct to consumer sales and even to time management. So hopefully covered a little bit of something for everybody that's listening. And before I let you go, any other new ventures you're looking on besides Omnisend, or are you just kind of focused right on your core business right now?
As I said previously, I'm a strong believer in focus. So yeah, although there are always crazy ideas popping up into my mind, my co-founders find, but keep ourselves away from them and focusing on the core, which Omnisend is now, and I believe going to be for upcoming 5 to 10 years.
Well, you have a great business and a big team and impressive growth just in really like 4 years that you guys have been pushing this business. So congratulations, Rytis. And how can listeners learn more or find more about you or your business?
Yeah, so omnisend.com, it's a company's website. And from social media, you mentioned a bit. So I hate Facebook, being honest. So yeah, but LinkedIn, so people can find me and follow me on LinkedIn. And Twitter, I tweet a bit, but yeah, probably LinkedIn is my most preferred social media.
Okay, great. We'll have that in the show notes. So
yeah, perfect. Thanks.
Okay. Well, listen, I want to thank you again, Rytis, for joining us on the Page One podcast, sponsored by Retail Band. And for the audience, hope you guys all enjoyed the interview today. Truly appreciate your reviews on iTunes, and hope you join us for the next interview. Thanks and take care. Okay. Cut. So editor, please cut it at this time. This is the end of the interview. Thanks. Cool. I thought that was pretty good, Rytis.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's great. I mean, although being honest, once I attend some podcasts, and some of them they're kind of no preparation and no questions in advance, and some of them they send the questions in advance, and what I liked with you, although you had all those questions prepared, but you just really at the same time kept a free flow conversation.
Cool.
Yeah, because sometimes people just stick to those questions, which we are kind of prepared too much, and we just cut the topic and just get into that question, and there's no the feeling of free flow. So in this case, that was just a mix of both, which is great. So thank you.
Yeah, no, that was, and it's fun. Well, because normally, really, I just like to, half of it is me meeting new people. So I love to meet people, and I want to make it conversational. And usually, each question could turn into 3 or 4 more, right? If we just keep going. Yeah. Wow. That's a impressive company, though. I know companies aren't always judged on number of people, but still 92 people, a third of those probably engineers. I mean, you got a great business that you've built. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Cool. Hey, not to put you on the spot, not to put you on the spot, but can your product do, so I'm using a product called Zeus.
Yes, okay. I know.
Okay, so it's more expensive, I think. I'll have to look at how yours is priced out. The thing is, it's more expensive. So, I usually, just as an owner and leader of the company, I often do to defer to my team, though, right? Because at the end of the day, they're the ones that got to run these things. So it's like, I don't want to force them to do all. And I've just learned over time, it's great, because otherwise, if I'm not making all the decisions now, I've got a great team, they can make the decisions. But does Omnisend do about everything that Zeus does, or are they kind of like different packages in different feature sets?
That's a good question. I'm not sure about the size and complexity of your business, but I would define Zeus being a really enterprise solution. While Omnisend being small to medium-sized business. As I said, sweet spot is up to 20 million in GMV, D2C sales. So that's probably the definition. If you are below that threshold, so maybe it's worth exploring Omnisend and just save money, because probably you are not using all the capabilities of Zeus. So So being honest. Yeah, being honest, Zeus is more customizable, more like you can plug it with your different like ERP, CRMs, like enterprise level solutions, which is not achievable with Omniscient. But it's Omniscient is a Jeep, Zeus is a tank. So,
Okay.
so it depends of like, what kind of fight are you attending? So if you're already at that level, so we would definitely will not replace, but it might be that you're just, I have a solution which is just too pricey for you and just too complex and you're using only 5% of its capacity. So
yeah, no, I wouldn't doubt it. I'm digging into it. I got a great guy running it, but I'm digging into it. I mean, we're only doing on our D2C. It's not a big part of the business. So that's only we'll do about 5 million this year. So I don't know, if that kind of, you said up 20 million or is that 20 million USD?
Yeah, Jimmy. Yeah. So 5 million is like absolutely into our sweet spot. So I would assume that maybe Zeus is just, you are utilizing, as I said, 5% of its capabilities. And you should be paying way, way more than pounds. So I'm happy. I'm happy to introduce our account like executive to show your guide to walk through whatever capabilities, what actually be your needs, what are you utilize currently, can we cover that, can we not? So if you kind of, on the other hand, I completely agree. If you get like, if the guy does the KPIs, so
Yeah.
probably, that's okay. It doesn't matter how much he invests in the tool if it pays off. So maybe that's it. I have exactly the same approach as you do.
Yeah. I'll circle back. I'm digging into it. Because what I want to separate is like anything can send out email blasts, right? And then so the value of the tool is, at least how I understand it, and maybe I'm not understanding it correctly, but the value is like how much revenue can the tool bring on segmented sales or audience sales besides just regular email blasts, like more personalized sales?
I do agree, and I would say like sales from automation, like marketing automation. Yeah. Flow sequences, how we call it, different tools have different names, but that's exactly the same. So basically, you listen to the signals, you automate your marketing campaigns, and you sleep. The tool does the job. So yeah, and it's where you actually communicating what the customer is willing to listen about instead of just what you want to say, as actually is the case in email blast. It's what you want to say, not what your customers want to hear.
Cool. Well, listen, I'll definitely circle back. I'll talk to him and I'll circle back. But enjoyed meeting you here and glad we did this on Zoom.
Okay, cool. So thank you so much. Really enjoyed talking to you, and happy to sell. We prefer selling on value. So if we can be valuable for you, so definitely more than happy to become your service providers. But if no, maybe in 1 year, maybe someday in the future.
And Rytis, right now I've got a backlog of probably eight or so episodes. So yours would be slated for like in the 2 to 3 month window, just to give you a heads up. Okay.
Okay. So let us know and we'll post on our social media channels.
All right.
Thanks for listening to the Page One podcast with Luke Peters. If you enjoyed this episode, please help us out by leaving us a rating on iTunes. Want to double your online sales? Check out www.retailband.com. And don't forget to join us next week with our next amazing guest.